It is Saturday, May 16th, and we are looking at my Cherokee Tan. If you remember last week's video, it was super small, and now it looks like it has definitely come back from the frost and the cold, and it's starting to bust out all over. And there is what might be my most favorite thing in the garden so far this year, the Cherokee Tan. That's the big boy. And little brother there, getting ready to take off. The tomatoes have also bounced back, and they are starting to really pop out, and I have a lot of weeds I gotta hoe today. I'm also going to get my sweet potato slips in the ground today. They've gotten pretty tall, and I think they're ready to go. Our nights are going to be warm enough now that they'll be fine. And I also need to plant cucumbers. I had seeds that I started, and they did great, and then the freeze came and they didn't do great. So those have to be replaced, and yesterday I needed to go out and do the grocery shopping, so when I was out I saw some cucumber plants, and I figured I would just go ahead and buy some, and that way they're that much ahead of where I would be if I bought seeds and replanted and waited for them to sprout and all of that. So today I'm going to do the sweet potatoes, I'm going to plant the cucumbers, and I'm also going to put some more green onions in the pot. The green onions from the store, I'm still having to buy those because mine aren't growing fast enough. They're growing, but they're just not growing fast enough that I can harvest them regularly. So that's what's going on as far as getting things in the ground, and aside from getting the weeds out of the ground, I think I'm pretty much done with planting for now. And actually, in 6 or 7 weeks, it's probably going to be time to start things for fall already, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I did have my parsnip experiment ongoing. I planted some seeds in the seed starter cells because I couldn't find them in the garden bed, so I don't know if I have any or not. And I also put some in a wet paper towel in a cup, and I will show you the results of that right now. There's my starter tray with the parsnip seeds. I have a couple of melon starts there also that I needed to restart, and the one that has all the sprouts in it is sunflowers. I just kind of threw all those in there, so I figure they'll be easy enough to pluck out and set into the ground. Now the parsnips, as you can see, are not doing much at the moment in the soil. These, however, that I put in the cups with a damp paper towel have started sprouting. So I'm going to put these in the soil. I see looks like one of them has molded, so I need to get these out of there, or at least let them air out a little bit, take that moldy one out. Parsnips have been pretty challenging for me. I'm not sure why, but this is an ongoing experiment, so we'll see how these go. These are the cucumber plants that I got yesterday. They are straight 8s, which is an heirloom variety, and there are 8 plants in here, so that should give me a decent number of plants, even if they're not the ones that I originally wanted, but I have planted all the seeds and none of them came up. So, and these are the grocery store onions. I'm just going to stick those down in the dirt and they will start growing just like those. They have been in that pot for about 5 days. And I can come out and cut the tops, and they'll grow back more than once. And then I eventually have to pull the root out, but they're a pretty good consistently growing thing. Celeriac is coming along well. And a quick update on the lemon tree. I did top it because it was getting pretty tall and it was kind of falling over. So I cut the top off and I stuck it in the dirt to see if that would root. I don't know if it will or not. Here are the sweet potato slips. And you can see they've gotten to be a good size. They're probably between 8 and 12 inches tall. So that's a really good start to them. I'm going to see about getting those planted very soon. On the top is the new citrus tree that sprouted below the lemon tree. I still don't know what kind of a citrus tree it is. It could be lemon, could be orange, could be grapefruit. But it's growing, so I'm going to let it go and see what I get. Saturday, May 23rd, 2020. We have some green strawberries and a couple that are starting to get ripe. I've actually picked a few here and there, and they are quite tasty. This beet is getting ready to bolt, and it's already made a nice size root, so I think I'm going to let it go and let it bloom and see if I can get some seeds. Some of this lettuce looks like it's about ready to bolt too. It is getting a little sharp, but still edible. Those are some of the Brussels sprouts that I planted way back. I don't think they're going to make anything, but they might well bolt too because it's going to get pretty warm. And I found out that's why it's not recommended to grow them in the spring here, because it just gets too warm too fast for them to grow. The pea patch has been producing. I've been getting a couple of handfuls every day. I didn't plant a whole lot of pea plants just because I wasn't sure how they were going to do, and they're not something that I'd really preserve. I just wanted some to eat as they come in. I have left a few pods to mature and make seeds so that I can save those for next spring. I do have more right now that I'm going to plant in the fall, but for now I'm just picking the flat pods and we're eating those. There's a nice one right there. I don't see too many more at the moment, but I'll look a little closer after I get done with the camera. Elephant garlic is doing great. Some of the regular garlic is still there. I've been harvesting it a little bit at a time as the tops die and fall over. And the cloves, or the heads rather, are not that big, but I have used a couple of them and they're pretty tasty. There's Princess Miss. The beans are growing well. Here at this end are the pinto beans. Next to those are the wax beans. And those are the yard-long asparagus beans that I replanted, so they're a little bit behind the other ones, but they're catching up pretty fast. The okra has sprouted. It's still small, but again, it's been cool, and once it stays warm, like I think it's going to from now on, we're projected to be in the 80s today and for the next few days at least, and then we'll be into June. For Pete's sake, I can't believe it's almost June already, but yeah, I expect it'll take off at that point. These tomatoes are doing great. They're getting big. I have put in some bamboo poles, and as they get taller I will tie those at the main stalk to support them, and I may or may not prune. I haven't decided yet. This is the Pantano Romanesco tomato from Baker Creek. There's a Cosmic Eclipse, also from Baker Creek. Here's the purple Russian, and it's growing very well. I have not only mulched it with straw, but I am laying down cardboard as I'm getting it to suppress the weeds and encourage earthworms. The more earthworms, the better. And there goes Princess Mess again. The cucumbers are finally growing. I think they're about to take off. I hope so. The round zucchini, the lemon squash, the red curry squash are looking pretty healthy now. I see a couple of weeds in there. I was down here yesterday pulling weeds and still have a lot to go because we've had so much rain. It's been too muddy to really be down here doing much. But the red curry squash are looking healthy. One of these actually came, two of these actually came through the freeze, and the rest of them were replanted. I just replanted the seeds direct, and they've come up and are doing quite well. The yellow pear tomato, it's getting pretty good size. I think these plants already look a lot healthier than last year's. I did move them over, and I planted them in the place where the gourds grew last year, and I know that soil was good because those gourds went crazy. And there's another cat. Why do I have so many cats? I got the sweet potato slips in the ground, and it seems like in just 2 days they have doubled in size. I do love sweet potatoes, so I'm hoping these do well. So we just have to let them grow and wait until the vines die off to see what we get. And the Cinderella pumpkins. Getting stronger. Starting to really leaf out. Here's the pretty princess surveying her kingdom. Well, I do not know what happened here. That's not good. It doesn't look like anything ate it. This part's looking really good though. Its partner over there is making blooms and some tiny green berries. There's one of the tiny hollyhocks. I just came down here and pulled a bunch of weeds, and I'm already going to have to do it again. Here's the swamp rose, also known as the hibiscus. Last year, for some reason, cabbage loopers got on that, and I had to spray it, but so far this year I haven't seen any bugs on it. It's already looking stronger and sturdier than last year's, and I'm really looking forward to it blooming. I do have some other ones planted back there, but they're only a couple inches tall. And of course I need to do some weeding back there too. This hollyhock is bigger, and next to it there's a sunflower. Pumpkins are growing. I did buy the straw that's around the plants directly, but I'm also, as I'm pulling the weeds, I'm just throwing them onto this weed barrier for mulch. Not only to cover it up, but also to suppress anything that might be growing under there. Well, that part looks pretty flat. Some of it seems to still have growth under it, and I'm thinking that the fabric is just too thin. But I'll work with what I have. I have a few new melon sprouts. I'm not sure which melons these are, but I'm sure they are one of the ones that came from Baker Creek because that's all I planted down here in this row. Sugar baby watermelons. Off and running. well, not quite running yet, but they're off. They're growing. That's pokeweed. And if you live in the South, you've probably had poke salad at one time or another. We used to take paper sacks and go along the roadsides and gather that stuff, and then we would cook it all up and eat it. I don't really care for it these days, so I'm not going to worry about trying to harvest it. And it's really almost too big at this point anyway. You got to get them when they're small. But there was one plant that grew over here, and one plant that I saw grew up and make seeds. And now, of course, it's all over the place. There's another one. That one's definitely too big to eat. Over the past couple of days, I've pulled up about 200 of these maple seedlings, and no, I'm not kidding, 200. And there are probably 300 more. They just keep coming. Parsley's growing well. And yes, I know there are a lot of weeds in there too. And cilantro, which looks exactly like parsley. You have to smell them to know the difference. Here's the heartnut tree. It's growing beautifully. Probably about, I don't know, 6 or 8 times the size it was last year. Still a long way from producing edible nuts, but everybody's got to start somewhere. There are asters in that blue tub and wheatgrass for the cats. Once that gets a little more filled in, I will take it inside for them. And I'm working on clearing out another planter so that I can have 2 going at the same time, so hopefully they can have one inside at all times instead of having to wait for it to grow again after they smash it and eat it. One of them likes to just climb in there and lie down on it. I don't know whether allowing her to go outside is going to help with that, and the jury's still out on whether she's going to be allowed to keep doing that or if she's going to be grounded. We'll see. Grocery store celery and extra cucumber plants. Status flowers on the top and on the right, and celeriac in the bottom. I don't know if you remember what this looked like last week or not, but it's grown a lot. I also figured out why my catnip was funny looking on the one side there, and that's because it's not catnip. It's actually spearmint. I had originally planted spearmint in this pot, and I thought that it had all died, but apparently it didn't. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do with that because I don't want the 2 in the same pot. I have harvested this catnip already, so it's a little shorter than it was last time I showed you. But it's very prolific. There is a volunteer tomato in my zinnias. 2 of them actually. Not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, if anything. And there's a volunteer something or other in the lemon tree, which also came up out of the compost that I put in the bucket for the tree. I have no idea what that is. It could be a squash, it could be a pumpkin, it could be, yeah, so likewise not sure what to do with that either. And along the lines of viney things, these are volunteers in the compost. Again, I have no idea what they are. I suspect that they're pumpkins because I don't remember throwing out any squash seeds. Generally, when I get squash, I just cook the whole thing and don't save seeds, but one never knows. Could have been a gourd. I guess we'll find out later on if they grow. I'm just going to leave them. See what happens. I guess that'll be our hugelkultur experiment or something like that. Lemon balm is doing great. The leaves are getting really good size, and I'll start harvesting that when it gets a little bigger. These flowers are dying back, and they never bloomed, so I never found out what they were, and I don't remember. Maybe next year. The sage has bloomed though, and it is just beautiful. Rosemary's also growing well. We have a yellow rosebud. This rose bush has just burst out all over. There's more status in here. It's not growing as well as the one in the back. It doesn't get much light here actually. It's kind of shady. But it's an experiment. If it doesn't do well, I can put something else there that does like shade next year. The oregano is growing well. I just tossed the rest of the seeds in there after I finished planting the plants because I wouldn't need to start anymore because it's supposedly perennial, so all those little sprouts are coming up now, and the bigger ones are the transplants, although they're still pretty small. They're still pretty small width-wise, but they're strong little plants. My lavender's getting ready to bloom, y'all. It's so pretty. These were two tiny little plants when I put them in last spring, so this is their second year. I really didn't expect to see that many blooms coming out, but that's exciting because I really do like lavender, and I will harvest those blooms and then I can use them for lots of things. And this thing is a yucca plant, and it's actually putting up a stalk and getting ready to bloom. These are not native to Kentucky, as you might guess. They are desert plants, and I don't know how this one ended up here or why, but it seems happy enough to make a stalk, and when it blooms they should be large white flowers, and I'll keep you updated on that.